Welcome. Scott here. I will be covering on the upcoming event 6 Warrior Quest, Area 5 in Global. Firstly, let me give you a quick overview on the 6 Warriors Quest. You can bring a party of 6 members for the quest. Each member can be equipped with their own call. For every turn, you can do a member swap. To swap a member you need to click on the swap button. You can only bring one summon and allow use one burst. No friend support will be allowed. Abilities that revive the party will affect both parties. The boss HP bar will have thresholds indicators. If you see the target icon is flashing with a red border, it means that the boss is going to do a dangerous HP attack. For those who have a full built-up roster, this is an event that you will enjoy a lot and the fun bringing a bigger party and have everyone utilize their strengths. Put a team of various utilities and this will help you in this even and future 6 warrior fights as well. Unlike Dimensions and Transcendence or Entropy, there will be no character lock. So, you do not need to worry about locking out the character for future 6 warrior quests. Let us proceed with the boss guide proper. The featured units are Baltheir, Agrias, Jack, Lann and Reynn, Cyan, and Rude. Lann and Renn's FR and Baltheir burst will be making their debut. Both Balthier and Lann and Reynn will be getting their FR boards and rework as well. We will be fighting 3 bosses, Heritage Golem, Small Protrusion Sphere and Protrusion Sphere. All bosses have 200 million HP each. The turn requirement is 65. The HP requirements is 15,000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Like most other Shinryu fights, the boss gains increased brave damage and gain resistances at start of the fight and 79% HP threshold. Bringing a support like Lunafreya, Charlotta, Aerith, Ramza, Garnet, Sarah, Pernello, Pain, Baltheir, or Selpha that grants damage boosting aura will make your fight easier. As the boss gains substantial boost to their defenses with the auras, it is important to inflict debuffs that lower their defenses. This is one of the toughest fights and probably the toughest 6 warrior fights to date. To simplify my explanation of the fight, I have done a table summarizing the key HP thresholds that you need to be aware of. At the start of the fight, 69% and 39% HP threshold, the Small Protrusion Sphere will run Enhancement Program 1 where it will grant the entire boss an enhancement chip buff for 3 turns. The chip buff will reduce HP damage by 300% and raises the boss brave and HP damage by 100%. It also allows the boss heal back 80% of the damage received. In other words, it is effectively reducing your party damage to 20%. For the first threshold, you can handle it by dispelling buff with dispelling calls like Seymour LDCA, Pain LDCA, Ferris, or Vanille base call, or use the dispellers like Baltheir, Pain, Mog, Sarah's S1 or Sid Reigns with his EX. To prevent the second threshold, you can make Aerith a Seal Evil debuff to prevent the boss from buff. But this will require to deny the boss turns. Alternatively, you can block all buff slots and prevent enhancement chip from activating. It will trigger shutdown which will result the bosses to self-inflict themselves with damaged enhancement chip debuff, which is HP poison that scales off 1% of the boss's max HP. When the Heritage Golem's HP drop to 89%, 59%, and 29% HP thresholds, it will start to activate its hardened defenses. There are 2 key mechanics that you need to take note of while the hardened defenses are active. Firstly, while the auras are active, any action from both Protrusion Sphere's attack will follow up with inflict debuffs which result a 1-turn paralysis inflicted on your party. The second mechanic revolves the Heritage Golem consecutive triggers of hardened defense. To break the stance, you need to destroy the brave shields. While hardened defense is active, It will active a 200k Brave shield along with a massive 50 million HP shield, and boss will absorb all elements except for fire, thunder, and water. The party will also gain 100% Brave damage resistance against non-elemental attacks. All bosses will be immune to KO. After the Brave shield is destroyed, the boss activates Hardened Defense Plus. The boss will reactivate another 300k Brave shield, reset the HP shields back to 50 million, and absorbs all elements other than ice or earth. After the Brave shield is destroyed again, the boss activates Hardened Defense Plus. The boss will reactivate another 500k Brave shield, reset the HP shields to 50 million, and changes its elemental absorption except for water or earth. Once the final 500k shield is destroyed, you will trigger Protection Crumbled, which deactivated the auras. To handle the Brave shields, just use or swap in units with great Brave shaving potencies. Baltheir, Squall, Zac, Machina, Jack Garland, Titus, Mog, Setzer, Core, Reigns, Noctis, etc. In summary, to handle this mechanic, you need to prevent the Protrusion Spheres from acting with delay and launch while smashing the Brave shield that is on Heritage Golem to disable the auras. Lastly, the Protrusion Sphere will fill its force gauge to max when its HP drop to 49%. You can avoid this if your force time is active. The boss force gauge properties give the bosses faster charging capability, which most probably resulting them to activate their force time faster unless you speed your force gauge filling with force chargers like Aerith, Charlotta, Pernello, Yuna, Lunafreya, etc. You can also make use your own burst or summon phase to ensure that you get to activate your force time before the bosses activates their force time. If you killed Protrusion Sphere or the Heritage Golem before the small Protrusion Sphere, it will activate the Enhancement Program 2, which will grant a stronger variant of the Enhancement Chip buff. Stand by your Dispel utility or prevent the boss buff with Buff Negation utility. If you have the utility to handle the boss mechanics and counter with the required utility, you should be able to clear this fight without much difficulty. Make use of the 6 warrior format and chain your FR echoes. If you have 6 FR Echo units for this event, you can potentially change up 11 FR Echoes, which will be more than sufficient to kill the boss. This event is also one of the featured events for the Dare to Defy. It is highly likely that the fight will be adjusted to single party fight, which the boss having a smaller HP pool and weaker auras. I will post an update on my channel once we got the official update of the boss data. As we are no longer have Lufania Plus fights, the boss guide will be focused primarily on Shinryu fights. In Shinryu, you need to understand the effects gained by the boss as the force gauge build up, its force ability and its force time effect. If your party has low force levels, it is highly certain that the boss force gauge will build up faster than yours. To have a better understanding on the basics of the force gauge mechanics and Shinryu fights, I have done a video explaining the mechanics. I have included the link to the video under the comments and video description for your quick reference. Throughout the fight, when your party members act, the boss force gauge will increase by 4%. It will reduce your party attack by 100% and party brave gains by 100%. The boss force gauge will build up faster as its HP is lowered. You can refer to the table on the screen for the percentages. At the 100% threshold, the Protrusion Sphere will activate Metamorphosis and changes its form with red glow emitting. After that, it will use its force ability, Run Enhance Program 3, which is non-attacking ability that batteries the boss party with 150k Brave. It also buffs the party with 2-turn charge buff, which prevent the boss from dying, dealing Brave cap damage and recovers 1 million HP at the start of the turn. It will also inflict 6 frame debuffs which last for 3 turns, and the debuffs will bypass debuff evasion. The debuffs that lowers the affected target's attack by 100%, defense by 100%, initial brave by 100%, max brave by 100%, speed by 50% and turn rate by 50%. Upon using the force ability, the boss will enter into its force time where the gauge will start to emit a red hue with a counter of 10 on its gauge. When the force time is activated, both bosses will gain an enhancement. Your party will not be able to gain any brave. The boss party heal back 80% of the HP damage received and boost the boss party brave damage by 50%. Dealing the force weakness will cancel the boss force time. To do that, you need to use a ranged force ability that cleanse debuffs and dispel buffs on the bosses. The only FR that fulfills this condition is Baltheir. Likewise, you can also cancel the force time with ranged force ability that cleanses like Ferris or Mog, but you need to ensure that the bosses does not have any buff on it. You can prevent the buff from activating with buff negation utility like Aerith Seal Evil, Ash or Vincent BT Aura. Alternatively, you can also block it by maintaining 8 frame debuffs on the bosses. The charge buff has great potencies, but you can have Baltheir steal it and use it for your own advantage. Baltheir's BT Aura allows Baltheir's stolen buffs granted to party for 3 turns. If you don't have any force time cancel utility, you can either survive the boss force time phase with Brave Control utility and damage mitigation, or get your force time ready before the boss activate theirs. Now let's go through the fight key mechanics. First, let's start off with the mechanics from the Heritage Golem. The Heritage Golem will gain Shinryu auras at the start of the fight and when its HP is lowered to 79%. When its HP drop to 89%, 59%, and 29%, it will trigger the Hardened Defenses sequence. Upon activation, Hardened Defense will grant the boss party the following auras. 1. It will grant a 200k Brave Shield and 50 million HP shield. Yes. You hear it right. 2. It will grant the boss party 100% non-elemental brave damage resist. 3. The boss party HP cannot drop below 1. 4. The boss party will gain elemental absorption to all except fire, water, and thunder element. While Hardened Defenses stance is activated, the Protrusion Spheres will follow up with Inflict debuffs trigger after their action. Inflict debuffs will result the boss inflict 1 turn framed paralysis debuff on your party. You can block that with debuff evasion. Because of the annoying mechanics, the best way to abuse consecutive turns to break the brave shields with delay, launch and rebreak while also preventing both Protrusion Spheres from acting. Once the 200k brave shield has been eliminated, the boss party will activate Hardened Defense Plus, which grant the boss party the following properties. 1. It will dispel the elemental absorption properties from Hardened Defense and 50 million HP shield. 2. The boss party will gain 300k Brave Shield and reset the HP shield to 50 million. 3. The boss party will gain elemental absorption to all except Ice and Earth element. Destroying the 300k Brave Shield will causes Heritage Golem to activate Hardened Defense Plus, which grant the boss party the following properties. 1. It will dispel the elemental absorption properties from Hardened Defense Plus and 50 million HP shield. 2. The boss party will gain 500k Brave Shield and reset the HP shield to 50 million. 3. The boss party will gain elemental absorption to all except water and earth element. After destroying the 500k Brave Shield, you will activate the status protection crumbled and removes the aura totally. This is one of the boss key mechanics that make this event one of the toughest 6 warrior quest fights to date. To make your life easier in handling the Brave Shields, deploy units with high Brave hits, and those with Brave Steel utility or hitting weakness damage will excel in breaking the shields easier. Units with AoE Brave Shaving utility like Baltheir, the Twins, Mog, Sarah, Karasame, Reigns, and Squall are some options that you can consider. Quina BT Aura will make handling this mechanic a lot easier, as its BT Aura will allow your party bypass the shields and doing max HP damage. Now let us talk about the middle boss, Small Protrusion Sphere. The Small Protrusion Sphere will gain Shinryu auras at the start of the fight and when its HP is lowered to 79%. At the following HP thresholds, start of the fight, 69% and 39%, the small Protrusion Sphere will activate Enhancement Program 1, which grant the party an enhancement chip buff. The enhancement chip will grant the buffed unit the following auras. A. Increase HP damage resistance by 300%. B. Raises the boss brave and HP damage potencies by 100%. C. The boss will heal back 80% of the damage received. Effectively, it is reducing your HP damage to 20%. To handle this, you can bring Baltheir to steal buffs for his own use with S1 or dispel the buffs with Dispelling Call, Vanille, Ferris, Pain LDCA, Shelka LDCA, Seymour LDCA. Sarah can dispel the buffs with her S1. To handle the thresholds at the 69% and 39%, you can either dispel the buff again or block the bosses from buffing them by loading their buff slots with 8 framed debuffs. If you have buff negation utility like Aretha Seal Evil active when the boss is activating the threshold, the boss will be unable to buff themselves and you will trigger the shutdown trigger, which will result the bosses debuffing themselves with a 3-turn damaged enhancement chip debuff. The damaged enhancement chip will result the boss to inflict themselves with HP poison that scales off with 1% of their max HP. If you kill either the Heritage Golem or the Protrusion Sphere boss first, the small Protrusion Sphere will activate the enhancement program 2. Upon activation, the party will be granted a stronger variant of the enhancement chip that have stronger HP damage resistance of 500% and raises the boss brave and HP damage by 200%. The boss will also heal back 80% of the HP damage received. You can deploy the same method to handle this mechanic as you did for the other thresholds. While Hardened Defense's stance by the Heritage Golem is activated, the small Protrusion Sphere will follow up with Inflict debuffs trigger after their action. Inflict debuffs will result the boss inflict 1-turn framed paralysis debuff on your party. You can block the triggers with debuff evasion. Now let us talk about the last boss, Protrusion Sphere. The Protrusion Sphere will gain Shinryu auras at the start of the fight and when its HP is lowered to 79%. The boss is the least dangerous among the 3 bosses. However, if you kill before you kill the other bosses, you will probably unable to cancel the boss force time as you are required to cleanse a debuff to cancel its force time. When its HP reaches 49%, it will autofill the force gauge to the max and enter metamorphosis mode and uses the force ability. To prevent this, you can just lower the boss threshold to 49% while during your force time, as the boss cannot activate their force time during your force time. While Hardened Defense's stance by the Heritage Golem is activated, the Protrusion Sphere will follow up with Inflict debuffs trigger after their action. Inflict debuffs will result the boss inflict 1-turn framed paralysis debuff on your party. You can block them with debuff evasion. Before I end the section on the boss mechanics, let us cover briefly on the boss basic attacks. The Heritage Golem will rotate mainly between Reaper and Reckless Behavior. Reaper is an AoE melee brave attack while Reckless Behavior is a single melee brave attack. You can tell which move is incoming from the boss targeting indicator. When the boss has enough brave to deal a HP attack, it will use lunge. The small Protrusion Sphere will generally rotate between Gravity Ball and Piercing Laser. Gravity Ball is a single ranged brave attack while Piercing Laser is an AoE brave plus HP attack. The Protrusion Sphere can also use Gravity Ball and attack with Object 199 when it is targeting all. Object 199 is a ranged brave plus HP attack. While it is in its force time mode with red glow emitting, it will use Needle Shower, which is an AoE ranged brave attack. From time to time, the Protrusion Spheres can also use Laser, which reset their break status follow by a brave gain and HP attack. So, let us recap on the boss mechanics. You need to either dispel the buffs or prevent the boss from buffing with buff negation to disable the enhancement chip buff mechanics. Load the boss with 8 frame debuff is another way to go. To end the Hardened Defense's aura, you need to constantly shave off the brave shields. Make use of the elemental weakness and brave shaving utility you have by swapping characters out with the utility to handle the mechanic. There are some runs where the players can nuke past the thresholds with souped up 999% force time attack. Avoid on not letting both Protrusion Spheres acting while hardened defense phase is active. The boss force time requires you to cleanse the debuffs and boss do not have buff to cancel it. FR that can meet the requirements are Baltheir, Ferris or Mog. Ferris and Mog will only work if the boss has no buff, so you most probably need to either block the boss buff slots or apply buff negation utility. Most JP players either uses their burst phase to charge the gauge and doing a pseudo burst phase and swap FR echo units to abuse the force time to blitz the boss HP threshold. So which enemy you should target first? Personally, I will opt to target the Heritage Golem as I can handle the enhancement program 2 mechanic easily with buff negation utility. If you cannot cancel the force time once the boss activated, you need to find means to survive it, like using Aerith BT as long as her gold framed buff aura are active, a tank like Warrior of Light or Ruby Conte, Zac BT aura, or freezing the boss Brave Gains with Karasame BT or stacking Pain's Mute Wing buff. Brave gain negation calls like Setzer Freeze Joker, Cater LDCA, and Arsila LDCA also works well here. You can also use turn disable debuffs to disable their turns and wait for their force time to lapse before you blitz them down with your own force time. Lastly, please do not feel discouraged if you are unable to clear if you are new to the game. This is arguably the toughest 6 warrior quest that we have received to date. Before I proceed to cover the featured FR BT units, it is noted that Dare to Defy format will be a standard single fight instead of the 6 warrior quest format. Clearing the Dare to Defy variant won't clear the 6 warrior quest for the Shinryu event tickets. The boss will most probably have lower HP pools. If you are struggling to clear the event, you can check out my channel or other content creators for the clears. Before I end the guide, let us cover a bit on the featured FR unit. Let us start off with the overview on the twins first. The twins have returned with a decent rework with more damage potencies. They are shifting from a damage dealer role to AoE damage aura, but their auras offer one of the game's strongest HP damage up auras, and it gets stronger when you are facing more enemies. Their FR is an instant turn FR ability which enchants the party with the 5 elements, fire, water, thunder, water, and earth, followed by an AoE HP attack. Instant turn FR are very good for spam FR echo strategy. Let us briefly go through their force condition. 1. Dealing HP damage to multiple targets will get you 30% HP damage bonus. It is very weird for you to bring the twins to a single target fight stage like the recent Hell House fight. 2. For the next 2 conditions, as they are interrelated, I will cover them both at the same time. You use an elemental ability, you will get 20% HP damage bonus. You use an elemental ability with 2 elements, you will get another 20% HP damage bonus. If you bring non-elemental units or units with dual true enchant like Enacross or Ash, you will not have difficulty in meeting both conditions. However, you are bringing elemental units like Karasame, you will have difficulty in meeting the second condition unless you have applied true enchant utility like Neon BT Aura or Lulu LDCA. Unfortunately, the only elemental true enchant utility is the fire element. Generally, how easy you will be meeting the FR condition will really depends on the boss fight you are facing and the party setup you are going with. Being an instant turn FR ability, it is honestly a waste not to save it for FR echo uses. It is a very useful FR when handling future 6 warrior quest type events. Twins BT Aura has been upgraded as well. You can refer to the table on the screen for the details. The BT Aura is still one of the best damage booster auras. Okay, let's proceed to cover on the leading man, Baltheir. The leading man have returned with a great rework and his damage potencies has increased significantly. He becomes one of the hardest hitting AoE DPS in the game. However, the key disadvantage is that there are not a lot of gun units now. Even without a Ultima weapon, Baltheir can still easily crack in top 15 in today's meta damage wise. Baltheir steal buff mechanic is very situational and can be very useful against boss who loves to buff themselves a lot or have game-changing buffs. With his BT aura, he can steal the buffs and use it for his own use. He offers nice offensive HP damage auras. He can dispel buffs and cleanse debuffs with his LD. His FR ability is an instant turn, guaranteed hit AoE Brave plus HP attack. It will also cleanse all debuffs from the party and steals 3 random buffs from the enemy for Baltheir himself. If his BT aura is active, the stolen buffs will be applied for the party. If bosses don't have any buffs active, your party will get HP damage up and increase in the max Brave cap. Let us briefly go through their force condition. 1. Attacking an enemy without buffs will give 40% HP damage bonus. You can prevent the boss buffing with buff negation utility like Aerith LDCA or loaded the boss with 8 frame debuffs. But I will not recommend doing this because you will not be able to take advantage of his third FR condition. 2. Dealing ranged brave damage will give you 20% HP damage bonus. 3. Dispelling a buff will grant you a whopping 80% HP damage bonus. This condition is great buff heavy fights. You can strategize, let the boss have a lot buffs and slowly chip off their buffs with Baltheir or single target buff Dispel, Cloud, Beatrix, Sid, or Orin with Vanille Sphere. Seymour with his BT aura is pairs well with Baltheir. Overall, it is a situational FR. If the boss loves buff themselves a lot, you can use Baltheir as the main FR phase. If the boss does not, you can use Baltheir FR as FR Echo instead. Instant turn attacking FR allows you to stack FR HP damage bonus fast and always offer great value for the pulls. Now, let's cover his burst weapon. Other than the standard BT auras that most BT provides, Balthier BT will grant some unique mechanics. 1. It will allow Baltheir to follow up his attack with Gorgon Shot, which is AoE Brave plus HP that inflicts 1 turn frame debuff Gorgon Shot. The Gorgon Shot will prevent the boss dealing 0 Brave and dealing 0 HP attack. The debuff will dispel after the boss take its action. Unlike Pain's Mute Wing, you cannot extend it indefinitely. 2. Any buff stolen by Baltheir will be extended the buffs by 3 turns and apply to the party. This can be a double-edged sword. For boss with nasty buff, you can steal it for the benefit of the entire party. Let us say if Baltheir steal the boss 2-turn charge buff for this fight, your party will be able to deal Rainbow Brave cap damage, heals for 1 million and become immune to KO for 6 turns. However, if the boss has an underwhelming buff like a generic 20% speed up, the advantage will not be that advantageous. Another potential shortcoming is that you need be mindful and careful on buff management. You don't want to let your party key buffs fall off, as you could accidentally overload your party with useless boss buffs. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. FRN. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight in the coming hours. Bye.